Welcome to this explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're joining me today because right now, metaphorically speaking, we're standing on the muddy, loud, chaotic edge of one of the largest earth-moving operations in North America. We're going to dive deep into a multi-billion-dollar megaproject that is quite literally reshaping the geography of the Midwest, all to save an entire city from the devastating forces of nature.
Just wrap your head around this number, 45 million. That is the staggering amount of cubic yards of earth currently being excavated, scraped up, and hauled away. It's an operation so massively huge it almost defies comprehension. But listen, this isn't just digging a hole for the sake of digging. Every single bucket of dirt moved out there is part of a desperate, heavily calculated race against time and weather.
Because the crucial point here really comes down to the stakes. Why on earth go to such extreme lengths? Well, this massive project is designed to protect 250,000 people along with 70 square miles of homes, businesses, and absolutely critical infrastructure. So we're answering one massive question today. Why are we building the world's largest drainage ditch around an entire metropolitan area?
To figure that out, we need to look at the anatomy of a flood.
To truly understand the solution, we've got to understand the geography of the problem first. The city of Fargo sits right along the Red River, and its topography is uniquely treacherous for a couple of reasons. First off, the terrain here is incredibly pancake flat. Second, and this is the kicker, unlike most rivers you might know, the Red River does something incredibly dangerous. It flows north. So when spring finally hits, melting snow from the southern part of the basin rushes north into areas where the river is often still totally frozen solid. This causes these severe, brutal ice jams, and with the water backed up and absolutely nowhere else to go on that flat terrain, it just spills out across vast swaths of populated land.
History shows us just how terrifying this natural mechanism can be. Back in 1997, the Red River rose to nearly 40 feet, which just devastated the surrounding region. Then, it happened again in 2009, cresting at a record 41 feet. Desperate residents deployed over 7 million sandbags, literally fighting tooth and nail, day and night, to save their homes. But I mean, you can only hold back nature with sandbags so many times, right?
Which brings us to engineering the solution.
With history constantly threatening to repeat itself, state leaders knew a permanent fix wasn't just a nice-to-have, it was completely mandatory. Now, looking at this massive flooding problem, you might be asking the obvious question here. Why not just build a dam? I mean, it's humanity's oldest trick for stopping water.
Well, if you build a traditional dam on perfectly flat terrain, the water just spreads sideways, which could actually make the flooding way worse for neighboring communities. It just doesn't work here. So instead, engineers looked up north to Winnipeg for some inspiration. The ultimate solution? A massive diversion channel. The core philosophy is to actually work with the water rather than fighting against it, backing it up safely in a designated zone and then just routing the excess right around the city.
Now, what's really fascinating is that paying for an idea this colossal required some serious bureaucratic muscle and a totally new approach. The Metro Flood Diversion Authority was formed specifically to spearhead this beast of a project. They utilized a historic $3.2 billion public-private partnership. In fact, it's the very first water management P3 of its kind in North America. By teaming up with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, they were able to get shovels in the ground 10 whole years faster than traditional federal funding would have allowed. Pretty amazing stuff.
Let's actually follow the water.
I want to invite you on a quick structural journey. Let's trace a single drop of floodwater from the moment it hits the system to the moment it safely bypasses the city. It all boils down to a cohesive three-step sequence. Step 1. A massive southern embankment acts almost like a giant bowl, catching and safely backing up that floodwater south of town. Step 2. 3 specific gated control structures, located at the Red River, the Wild Rice River, and the diversion inlet, act like giant precision faucets, carefully regulating exactly how much water is allowed into the natural river flowing through the city. And finally, Step 3. All the excess water is forced into the brand new 30-mile channel to take a long, safe detour around the entire metro area. Just take a second to marvel at the absolute awe-inspiring scale of this Red River control structure. What we have here are 3 massive gates, and each one is roughly 50 feet wide and 50 feet tall. During a major flood event, instead of just crossing their fingers and hoping the old levees hold, operators simply lower these giant gates. They are basically the perfect modern-day alternative to building an ark. But as you can imagine, here's a massive logistical nightmare for you. When you dig a 30-mile trench around a city, you literally sever all the existing roads and highways. You cut the city off. To solve this, the project involves building 19 brand new bridges. This ensures that local traffic, commerce, and everyday life can just continue completely uninterrupted, driving right over the top of the diversion channel.
Now, intersecting roads is one thing, but what happens when this massive diversion channel intersects with other rivers? Well, you have to build a water bridge, or an aqueduct. The Cheyenne and Maple rivers will literally flow right over the top of the new diversion channel. And get this, because winters up there are absolutely brutal, these aqueducts are actually geothermally heated from below just to prevent them from freezing solid. It's an incredibly rare engineering marvel that ensures year-round fish passage so the natural ecosystem stays thriving, while this giant flood infrastructure operates right below it.
Next up, let's get into the extreme earthmoving.
To make all these giant concrete structures actually work, you need a place for the water to go, right? Digging a 30-mile hole requires a heavy machinery roster that is an absolute dream for infrastructure nerds like us. We're talking about massive Komatsu 1250s, Volvo 950 excavators, heavy-duty twin-engine scrapers, and a whole army of dozers, ranging from nimble little baby dozers all the way up to the massive D9s. Oh, and they're also using these things called sand cans. They're highly specialized, incredibly massive buckets, uniquely designed to scoop out the soft, sticky clay that is so infamous in this part of the country. And the wild part, this earth-moving operation is entirely at the mercy of the seasons. During the summer, it's a frantic sprint. They run 2 full shifts around the clock while it's dry, but the literal second it rains, that sticky clay turns into a slick, unworkable mud that just brings everything to a screeching halt. Surprisingly, though, the dead of winter is actually one of their most productive times. The freezing cold hardens that soil into solid blocks, which allows the heavy trucks to haul the clay with incredible efficiency without just sinking into the muck.
So you might be wondering, where do 45 million cubic yards of dirt even go? Well, it definitely doesn't go to waste. Engineers carefully harvest existing sod mats and repurpose all that excavated clay into these beautifully engineered berms alongside the channel. They seed these with native grasses to prevent erosion and create natural habitat benches. They're literally sculpting a brand new, ecologically friendly landscape straight out of the excavation.
Now, let's talk about the 500-year payoff. We've looked at the mud, the machines, and the blueprints. But to truly grasp the scale of 45 million cubic yards, try to visualize this for me. It is the equivalent volume of 14 Great Pyramids of Giza. That is enough dirt to bury 7,000 football fields under 3 feet of earth. If you loaded it all into standard on-road dump trucks, the line of trucks would stretch entirely across the United States, literally from coast to coast. It is a monumental reshaping of the earth.
And the ultimate payoff for moving all those pyramids worth of dirt? It secures 500-year flood protection for the entire Fargo-Moorhead metro area. Seriously, once the grass grows in, these completed sections will quietly blend right into the landscape. Most people driving by won't even realize they're looking at a $3 billion megastructure that is actively keeping hundreds of thousands of people perfectly safe.
This perfectly illustrates the power of civil engineering.
Which really brings us to the profound and honestly often unglamorous impact of massive infrastructure. I gotta give a massive shout out to the contractors, the machine operators, and the engineers who spend years out there in the mud, surviving freezing winters and sweating through blazing summers to ensure that the tragedies of 1997 and 2009 never, ever repeat themselves. It's a fantastic reminder that boring infrastructure, the literal ditches, the concrete gates, the earthen berms, is exactly what quietly saves communities and allows our modern lives to continue uninterrupted.
So, I'll leave you with this. As our climate challenges grow and weather patterns become increasingly extreme all around the globe, cities everywhere are going to have to totally rethink their relationship with water. Where will the world's next megadiversion need to be built? Thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredible explainer and keep asking those big questions.